A lot of us worry about the worst of what we'll leave behind, but I think that mercifully, it's often the best of who we've been that hangs around. Welcome back to the 50/50 Project, where every week I talk through an item on a list made up of one thing I've learned for each year I've lived. We're getting really close to the end of the list now. I can't believe it's been almost 11 months since I started recording these on the day of my 50th birthday. And now that we're coming to the final few entries, we're going to end in an entirely new category, which is loss. I decided to end here because if someone were to ask me to really focus on 5 things that are most unique to my personal experience in life, I think they'd all fall into this category and all connect back to my experiences with early bereavement. It's funny because it's taken me a long time to realize how profoundly early loss has impacted my life. When I was 20 or 25, I really used to think that my mother's very early and very sudden death had only had a limited impact on who I became. I think I would have said then that it was very sad, of course, but that it happened a long time ago. But now that I'm 50 instead of 25, I can look back and see so clearly that there is not one single aspect of my personality or my life that hasn't been shaped in some way by that experience. And so the 5 final things of this project dig deep into that pool of understanding. And it's a pool that I never wanted to dive into, I never asked for, and that I'd trade back in a hot minute for more time with my mom or maybe a more normal childhood. But it's a pool nonetheless, filled with really valuable, precious even, insight. And it's a well that I've been privileged in a sad and strange way to be allowed to wade into. So here we go with thing number 46. What will survive of us is love. This is the concluding line of one of the most achingly beautiful poems I've ever read. It's a poem called An Arundel Tomb, written by Philip Larkin. And it was written in 1956, but it's an extended meditation on a tomb that comes from the 1370s. I'm not going to read the poem itself because I think if you only get snippets of it, it takes so much away from it. So again, the title is An Arundel Tomb, and it's really worth reading if you're interested. But the grave site that's described in this poem is a real one, with most scholars agreeing that it's about the monument to Richard FitzAlan, who was the 10th Earl of Arundel, and his wife, Eleanor, and they both died in the 1370s. The tomb is essentially a pair of 2 stone or marble boxes, sarcophagi, with life size sculptures of the husband and the wife carved onto the lids of each box. The two statuaries, though, connect because the hand of the wife fits into the hand of the husband, meaning that these two figures are holding hands for all eternity, or however long their tomb survives. And in addition to describing the grave and the tomb itself, Larkin also describes the passage of time since they've died, how year has followed year, how day after day the shifting light has washed over and retreated from this tomb, warming and cooling the stone for decades and then centuries. He noted too the changing context around the grave and thought about how the British culture had moved on and evolved, and how the generations of visitors had lost the thread of who these long buried people really were, aside from the names engraved on their stones and this symbol of holding hands for all eternity. And Larkin just points out that nothing about their particular personalities remains known to us. No factual information about their relationship or the quality of their connection is known to us. All we have is a sentimental detail of their interlaced hands in their stone effigies. And because it's what we have left, we allow it to dominate our interpretation of who these people were, what they were like, and what their lives together boiled down to. What remains of them, for us as long distant onlookers, is the love we think we see symbolized by the hands. But for all we know, That hand holding might have been just a minor detail to them. It may have even been something the sculptor added on his own. It may not have characterized their real relationship with each other at all. And I guess I will read the final stanza. Time has transfigured them into untruth. The stone fidelity they hardly meant has come to be their final blazon, and to prove our almost instinct, almost true. What will survive of us is love. And kind of like the visitors to the grave have seized upon this romantic detail, Larkin's own readers have seized on the real beauty of the poem's closing lines in ways that are said to have annoyed the poet a little bit. People glossed over the bigger message that the hand holding might just be a decorative symbol, not any real indication of what these two long dead people felt for each other at all. Instead, we as readers seem to get pulled into those two final lines in the same way that viewers of the grave have been pulled into those two held hands. And as readers, we tend to ignore the important qualifying repetition of almost and seize instead on the intrepid resilience of the word love. Our almost instinct, almost true, what will survive of us is love. I've read a lot of Larkin's correspondence and interviews about this poem, so I can't entirely dismiss his more cynical, or at least more realistic, point here about how the dead become mere sketches of themselves, losing their human details as years pass into years and decades become centuries. But I still seize on those ending lines just like everybody else. I still have a pendant engraved with them, and I still hold fast to them as an encapsulation of my continually evolving relationship with my own mother, who has been dead these 40 years and more now. She continues to be love personified to me, even though I've grown up enough now to become curious about her as a fallible, complicated human being, and to become aware of her as an imperfect and complex person. But to me, she also remains the first person who believed in me and cared for me, who read to me more or less every night from the time I was born until the night before she died, who protected and instructed me and helped me to see the really beautiful things in a world that she would be gone from far too soon. And for me, she has become that kind of distillation of the best and the most meaningful facets of our connection, an influence that lingers, a power that still somehow protects, and a love that indeed survives and supersedes just about everything else. Now, I want to say something really important. I'm not suggesting that every connection will distill into goodness and end on love that survives in this way, or that what survives of every relationship or remembrance will be love. I'm not here to tell anybody how they should feel about people who've been unkind or unavailable or abusive or harmful, whether those people are living or dead. And I don't presume to know what anyone else has been through or how anyone else should feel. You don't get to fade into sainthood just because you die. I get that. But I do think that for a lot of us, if we're lucky, if we've been blessed with important and formative relationships with good people who loved us well, there is that process of fading into a simpler, more beautiful kind of love over years and years of separation that can happen. And it can be quite comforting. Things can become simpler over time when someone's been gone a long while. Not always, but sometimes. Loss and distance and separation can make the relationship smoother and the connection gentler. Again, not always, but in my experience, sometimes. And I think that's potentially encouraging for those of us who aren't dead and who are still here trying to build relationships with other people who are also not dead. Sometimes I really worry about whether I'm getting it right with other people, and that can inhibit my interactions with them. Sometimes I'm afraid that I'll inflict a wound or cause a grievance or do something that means my relationship with them has become a liability, that it's taken more than it's given or done harm in some way. And sometimes that can be an excuse to hold yourself back from interaction or keep you from trying another time to mend a fence or right a wrong. But when I remember that in many connections, when both parties are trying in good faith to be decent and kind, ultimately, when all is said and done and everything is over, what survives of us is just love. And that gives me peace somehow, to know that what survives of who we are and what we brought is usually mostly love. Okay, so that's probably more than enough for now. Thank you for spending some time with me today. I'm going to post a special episode sometime soon that goes through a runner up or honorable mention thing for each of the 10 categories of this project. I intended to do that this week, but I've been sick and I didn't get it done. But sometime soon I will. And for sure, I'll be back next week with thing number 47.